Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining. Let me know if you can hear me. Thank you for joining on Facebook. Let me know if I'm looking at you or if I'm looking in other directions, okay? Thank you so much. Who is here right now? Sean is here. Hi, Sean. How you doing? Thanks for joining, Sean. B. Wolf, welcome, welcome. Hello. I'm choosing this live over. Oh, is Jason live right now? Oh, gosh. Oh, it's always like, oh, you try not to, well, we can't help it. We just do. I go live when I can, okay? So I'm thankful for you all to continue to be flexible. Hi, One Take Son, I've missed you. How's it going? One Take Son, give me some feedback. Am I looking at you right now in the camera? Because I'm trying something different. So let me know if I'm looking at you all. Hi. Or if I'm looking at you here. I don't think it's here. I think it's here. I'm just trying new things. And if you can hear me, thank you. If just let me know. One Take Son, okay, sis? Hey, Alan. Welcome, Alan. Thank you for joining. SV Neverland. Hello from Miami. Well, hello to you in Miami. Blessings and thank you for joining. You're a new name. Please welcome SV Neverland to our chatmosphere. Welcome from Miami. Oh, Girl Code is here. Girl Code. Hi, Sissy. Thank you for hanging out. Oh my goodness. I got to talk to Sissy today. It's always nice when we talk. We've talked one time. I won't tell them, Girl Code, how long we were on the phone, but I have a screenshot to prove how long we've been on the phone. So is everything good with Tanny says hi. Hi, Tanny. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Is everything good? Hi, Tanny. Love you. Smooches. Okay, One Take Son said we're good. We're all good. You can see me and hear, and I'm looking at you directly. Is that good right there if I do this? Okay, listen, everybody, if you knew the technology issues, you would just know that this is always a miracle when I make it to the live stream and have technology doing the thing that it should. Hey, Christine, how are you? Welcome, welcome. I am looking at you right now. I have to practice doing that. But when I read I'm going to read from the narrative, okay? So he's laughing, he said. He's laughing. He said oh, thank you, Danny. That's so nice. All right. So today, another heavy topic, okay? But I was earlier telling Girl Code that I feel that it is a good thing to revisit this subject in light of what we have been seeing coming out in the mainstream. As you know, the Atlantic article that came out yesterday, I believe. It may have come out earlier, but yesterday was when it came across my attention and a lot of people were sharing it. So I kind of thought it was yesterday when they are calling for amnesty for everything that happened in 2020. They want basically to be forgiven without asking for forgiveness, which is a strange thing. I think you have to be totally wanting to be forgiven and stating, what it is you want to be forgiven, but just not asking for amnesty, like just act like nothing ever happened. That's going to be hard. It's going to be real, real hard. You've been a long time listener, really? A first time live chat. Look at that. Well, that's nice. I'm so glad. It's so nice to have you here. Yes, kumbaya. They want a kumbaya moment. I have no problem with kumbaya moments, but people usually do that in a different way. They tell you what it is they want you to forgive them for, I guess. Hey, Flower Girl Apothecary, welcome and greetings to you. Yeah, amnesty, shamnesty. I like that. That's right. Hey, Chris, nice to see you, Chris. Welcome. Hola, buenas noches. Buenos noches. Yes, this is so nice. Okay, so if I missed you, forgive, and I want to jump into the subject so we can get through it. It's hard, okay? It's hard only because we know that this period of American history is very painful. Now, I want to challenge you to look at this narrative and let me know what sticks out for you. Because what happened when it comes to the Tuskegee experiments, this was not that long ago. And a lot of the history that we are looking at, it just is not that long ago. So it keeps us grounded in a certain reality. I've told you that I'm not chasing shadows anymore. I can't look off into space and this and underground. I have to look at what's the common law, the law of the land, and what's happening in terms of us understanding exactly what's been happening and understanding who we are and why it's happening, and to really identify the enemy. And a lot of us are going to be very surprised at some of this stuff. It's shocking to know the depths of the inhumanity. Now, the Tuskegee experiment, I want to go to the Wikipedia. Let's start there with the Wikipedia and look at what this narrative is. So I'll stop my screen so I can share what they're saying in terms of the narrative. We're still good with sound. Sound still good. Hey, Dave Walker. Hello to you. Yeah, so I will just share the wiki because it's the place that we jump off to see what they are saying. So I will go to this one. All right. I've been reading through a lot of the narratives. Let me make this bigger for us. Okay. And let me know. You can see it pretty good here. Let's see. Maybe I need to go to a different one. Hold it a minute. Okay. Oh, I see what's happening. It's not opening in the page. So 1 minute. I will try this again. This should open it. Okay. I think that's it. All right, here we are. Okay, so right. Tuskegee Syphilis Study. All right. So the Tuskegee study of syphilis in Negro males, referred to as the Tuskegee experiment or Tuskegee syphilis study. It was conducted between the years 1932 and 1972. In the United States, this was a part of the Public Health Service, and it says Center for Disease Control and Prevention. I didn't know they were as active like back then. Now, it says it was a group of 400. Now they go to African Americans. So these narratives are all over the place. As you see, these labels start to fall apart because you're saying the Negro male, now you're saying African Americans with syphilis. So the purpose of this study was to observe the effects of the disease when untreated. Okay. Now, I don't know why anyone would want to observe the effects of this disease if it's untreated. Why? Okay, many questions. Though by the end of the study, medical advancements meant it was entirely treatable. Okay, I need to stop and just reflect right here. By the end of the study, they found a treatment. How convenient. The men were not informed of the nature of the experiment, and more than 100 died as a result. I would also challenge us to consider that they are not telling the truth about the amount of people affected, okay? I'm going to go on a limb and tell you that I believe it's much, much more, bigger number. Okay, so the Public Health Service started the study in 1932 in collaboration with Tuskegee Institute or Tuskegee University, a historically black college in Alabama. So that's your HBCU. In the study, investigators enrolled a total of 600 impoverished African American sharecroppers. So when we look at the whole issue of sharecropping, it's a legal arrangement, they say, with regard to agricultural land in which a landowner allows a tenant to use the land in return for a share of the crops produced on the land. So that's a basic definition of sharecroppers. So agriculture factors in, right? Food security. And it's interesting that we face very similar types of things. Like it's nothing new when it comes to this war for humanity and the soul, as they like to say, the soul of whatever, America. But I want to look more into the narrative in terms of how Tuskegee became the headquarters for this study. I want to know the nuances with the leadership at Tuskegee and the people that came to bring the ideas, the solutions, the money, the philanthropy, right? Okay, so we're going to see the same names pop up. All right, so the sharecroppers were from Macon County, Alabama. Of these men, 399 had latent syphilis. I won't get into a whole description of what syphilis is. We could go over it just a little. I don't want to show pictures. I want to show, well, no, I don't want to show pictures. I guess it's upsetting, but it is a very it's a very physically debilitating disease, I'll say. So they had a control group of 200 men, they say, who were not infected. As an incentive for participation in the study, the men were promised free health care. Where have we heard that before? So they were being incentivized by free things to enroll and give consent to this study. Karen's here. Hey, Karen, thank you for coming by. Welcome. So, okay, we can see that it's probably some similar things. Like I said, I want to look into this more and see what the nuances are with this narrative. And we should have people that have accounts that are pretty recent, like people that maybe not alive anymore, but has oral history. So I'm sure that I'm sure it is a thing. Okay, so they were promised free health care, while the men who provided were provided with both medical and mental care. That is a red flag, because earlier I was hanging out with Kev, you know, Coffee and Kush. Kev is talking about the asylums. So when you think medical and mental care, it makes me think asylums. And we know what the asylums were about right now, more like incarceration. Okay? And they were deceived. So at least in this narrative, they are saying that the people that were enrolled in these experiments were deceived by the public health department. They never informed the men of their syphilis diagnosis. So think about that as when we are thinking about the people affected. They did not know that they had syphilis. They didn't know their diagnosis. So I'm not sure what they were telling them, but these records are available. They have notes and lots of things, documentation from this study. They were also, this was a surprising thing, these studies were not secret. They were an open secret, so they were publishing the findings in medical journals. So just bear in mind that that is how bold they were. Okay, so they didn't know they had syphilis. They were provided disguised placebos, ineffective methods, and diagnostic procedures as treatment for bad blood. So what they were told is they had bad blood. Okay? The men were initially told that the experiment was only going to last 6 months, but it extended 40 years. 40 years. Isn't that a significant number of years? Let's see what you all are saying. Tina's here. Now, Tina, I'm glad you're here because you know about this history, right? You've been to Tuskegee. You visited, right? And there's a museum there, and I'd like to definitely do some field trips there. So Tina's saying hidden away so no truth came out. Hey, D Wolf. Hello, D Wolf. Welcome. Brought to you by Pfizer. Yeah, right. There you are. Brought to you by Pfizer. Big Pharma plays in pretty big here. Okay, so moving on with this narrative, and this is just, like I said, it gives us an idea of what they're saying. Okay, so So they were this was supposed to last 6 months. It lasted 40 years. After funding for the treatment was lost, the study was continued without informing the men that they were never that they would never be treated. So they were dangling the hope of treatment for this bad blood, but it was never to be. They were never going to receive the treatment promised to them. Okay, so none of the infected men were treated with penicillin. And so this was the treatment that they knew all along cured. So they knew the word cure was applicable when it came to the treatment of syphilis. You can be cured, okay, with penicillin. Okay, so none of the infected men, again, were treated with penicillin, despite the fact that by 1947, the antibiotic was widely available and had become the standard treatment for syphilis. The study continued under numerous public health service supervisors until 1972, when a leak to the press resulted in its termination, and that would be November. So this month that we are in right now would be the amount of time. Isn't that like what? 50 something? Like this is how long, we have. It's like an unfortunate anniversary. So this is when it would have stopped in 1972, November. Okay, so by then, 28 patients had died directly from syphilis. 100 died from complications related to syphilis. 40 of the patients' wives were infected with syphilis, and 19 children were born with congenital syphilis. So now we see how this affected other people outside of this study. And children in utero they contracted congenital syphilis. So the numbers, again, I do not agree that it's this little. I believe it's a lot more, again, if you're just joining. Okay, so the 40-year Tuskegee study was a major violation in ethical standards and has been cited as arguably the most infamous biomedical research study in U.S. history. All right. A lot of you might say we have updated information now. You may think that 2020 was the most infamous, right? And I wouldn't argue or debate the point. It really is where you're coming from and how you look at things. So it's revelation because they had a whistleblower. Okay, the whistleblower, by the name, I believe, was the name of the whistleblower, if you want to take notes, Peter Buxton. That was the name given. All right, so it led to a 1979 Belmont report. So Belmont report was, and to establish the Office of Human Research Protections and federal laws and regulations requiring institutional review boards for the protection of human subjects in studies. All right, so its revelation has also been an important cause of distrust in medical science and the US government amongst African Americans. Okay. So that would include people like Elon Musk, distrust in the government, right? And medical science because he is African American. Okay, so moving on. On May 16th, 1997, President Bill Clinton formally apologized on behalf of the United States of America to the victims of the study, calling it shameful and racist. That's really interesting coming from Bill Clinton, who was part of the 1994 crime bill. Racist? Really, Bill? Okay, what was done cannot be undone, but we can end the silence, he said. We can stop turning our heads away. We can look at you in the eye and finally say, on behalf of the American people, what the United States government did was shameful, and I am sorry. Okay, so how do you feel about President at the time, Bill Clinton's apology to African Americans, although this study said it was done to Negroes? You see how the use of words and wordplay, it can confuse the issue that you're not speaking the same language, basically, right? So what else? Let's see. Let me see what you're saying. One Take Son says, Billy got a black son he don't acknowledge. How about that? I wonder how he's doing. I used to see him making rounds like back, whatever, I guess earlier than 2020. Yeah, we found out about the son. Yeah, interesting. Yes, wordplay and wizardry. So this whole label, just swapping labels out. We're going to call them colored sometimes, Negro and African American and black. So it's all of the confusion. So you really don't know what group we're talking about because, again, Elon Musk falls in the category of African American. So go figure, right? So let's see what Flower Girl Apothecary is saying. Did Booker T. Washington get funding for his school to keep this initiative at his school? Now that I want to look into, because as I was going through reading about Booker T. Washington, because I don't know a lot about him right now, I would like to know the nuances with Booker T. Washington and with George Washington Carver, who was an instructor, a professor at the Tuskegee Institute. So I know that they did obtain funding, and the school was, getting a lot of philanthropy type of the names we know, the Carnegie, the Rockefeller, all that stuff, okay? So I will look into some other narratives and see where does Booker T. Washington fit into this in terms of knowledge of what's going on, and just I want to understand it. So anybody that has any good references, please share them with me. If you have a good book or website or anything like that, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so Bill Clinton apologized. So let's go into the history. So they say in 1928 they had a study, another syphilis study that was going on in Norway, the Oslo study. So that's a strange thing. Okay, so they were looking at pathological manifestations of untreated syphilis in white males. Okay, so here's that black, white, the thing they like to do. This study, they say, was a retrospective study. All right. That's an odd thing. So the basically at the time, it was believed that the effects of syphilis depended on the race of those affected. So this became a racial issue. The effects of syphilis depend on the race affected. Now, in pharmaceuticals, if anybody has looked at a product circular, when you are given a pharmaceutical, they often give some of the clinical data. And if it is a, like, say, hypertensive agent, anything dealing with the kidneys or heart, they will show a difference in when they're testing the kidneys. They have various things that they'll call it the African American. You all know what I'm saying? Where they specifically look at so-called African Americans and how they filter their kidneys compared to white male subjects, because it's usually males like 40 maybe and above. But it is an interesting thing that I've always wondered about, and I think I'm going to do a deep dive on it. What is the real thing? When did they start that? Because it's very telling that they have this sort of different way that they look at racial things when it comes to big pharma. Okay, so the physicians believed that syphilis had a more pronounced effect on African Americans. So would that even be like Elon Musk, people like that, right? Charlize Theron, like African Americans, okay, cardiovascular systems, than their central nervous system. So what they're saying is they felt this syphilis had a more pronounced effect on the Negroes' hearts than on the central nervous system, which they felt that was more pronounced in white males. It's a very strange thing. Okay, so these were poor sharecroppers. Again, the narrative, they want us to believe it's slavery, where now I am convinced, listening to Coffee and Kush, that we were under siege, that a confederation of nations came against the Americans, okay, the colonial Americans. And I believe there was a lot of intrigue, a lot of spies, infiltration, and there was some trust that was brokered. And so you had Judases that were within. And that is how this was an insurrection and a coup. This was the true coup. And that is why we are experiencing what we are now, what we have been experiencing up to this point with our government. And it doesn't seem like it's a government of we the people, but it's more so a government of Ukraine, of Israel, of anybody else that we send a lot of aid to. It doesn't seem as if this is an American first type of government. I don't know about you. It's just how I see it personally, my own opinion. How do you see it? Hey, Joseph's here. Welcome, Joseph. How's it going? Hey, now. Let's see. What are you saying? B. Wolf. They're only trying to prove there's something inferior about blacks when they do studies, trying to prove Sanger's thesis. Yes, exactly. Hey, Ann, how are you? Sean said amen. Yeah, right? So, yeah, D. Wolf says basically the government of the United Nations. Yes, and the WHO and the WEF. I mean, anything that's global, it's like that's the government, right? The New World Order that they wanted. Okay, so this sharecroppers thing is very telling. I'm going to definitely be looking into the agricultural issues and the land rights and things like that. Okay, so they treated the part of this cruel study. They treated the syphilis with something very severe. It was an arsenic-based compound, and it was branded 606 formula. So it had some mercury and things like that. Mercury and arsenic don't sound like good things to do. So it was some type of mercurial ointment and bismuth. Bismuth is very interesting, but in this combination, it was highly toxic. So some, we already talked about, they called it bad blood. All right, and they also did a series of spinal taps. So they were taking spinal fluid and studying it. And I don't know what else was happening, but they were doing this on a regular basis, doing these spinal taps. And also, they were asking the Negro doctors in the community to not treat these men or women, because it happened where the wives contracted. So they were telling the doctors not to treat the men. What does that sound like to you? Something familiar, right? Where doctors are told what to do. So who is telling them? The Department of Department of Public Health? The government is telling doctors how to treat their patients. So this is very, very telling when we look at what happened from 2020. Okay, so let's see. So the spinal taps, and the doctors were sending the men misleading, deceptive letters. So they were sending letters saying, last chance for special free treatment. And it was all deceptive to get the men to come back and to keep returning with the promise of treatment. So think about how they were suffering. They did not know that they had syphilis. They thought that they had bad blood, is what they were told. Okay, so like I said, that very toxic cocktail of medicine they were giving was very toxic, where they knew that penicillin was available. So right after the study ended, penicillin was released as a treatment for syphilis. Okay. All right. So during World War II, 256 of the infected subjects registered for the draft and were consequently diagnosed as having syphilis at military induction centers and ordered to obtain treatment before they were taken into the armed services. They were deprived of the cure. So there's a man named Vondenlohr. So Dr. Vondenlohr said that this study is of great importance from a scientific standpoint. It represents one of the last opportunities which the science of medicine will have to conduct an investigation of this kind. So that is why he was able to get the army to not give the cure. So let's see. Again, the whistleblower in 1972 Whistleblower Peter Buxton led to major changes in U.S. law and regulation. It says requiring informed consent and to communicate a diagnosis in an accurate way with test results. Okay, now the U.S. Public Health Service formed a study group in 1932 at its national headquarters in Washington, D.C. A man by the name of Taliaferro Clark was the one who headed this whole thing up. So he was the one that then they got Negro nurses and doctors to agree to get the people's trust so they could enter these experiments. All right. So there was a man named Rosenwald, okay, who funded this. Okay. His name was Julius Rosenwald. He established in 1917 the Julius Rosenwald Fund. Now, Julius Rosenwald was also the owner of Sears and Roebuck Company. So the man who funded the Tuskegee, I want to repeat this, okay? The man who funded the Tuskegee experiment was also the owner, Julius Rosenwald, of Sears and Roebuck Company. All right. And it was called the Rosenwald Fund. So this was in collaboration with Tuskegee Institute. And that's what I really need to understand, like to see like the nuances. Who would have been the Judases? And how did this come about? Was this like, did they trust the people, and did they get hoodwinked, as they say? So free medical care was the carrot that was dangled. And is my math right? It would be 50 years this month, right? So November would make 50 years since this happened. All right. So let me finish something here, and then I want to just show you something else. Now, so even though Rosenwald withdrew the financial support, I guess, when the whistleblower information came out, the reason it says that he withdrew is that he deemed it too expensive. But Taliaferro Clark at the United States Health and Public Health Service, who headed this up, he continued the study. So he got a new pot of money to continue the studies. So let's see. It's a lot of people's names that are listed here. So that's the thing about this kind of narrative. There are names involved. So it's not like, oh, I'm just talking about this group of people. These are names of people. And, you know, this is current. This is not old ancient history here. So these people have heirs. They have family members that are still alive, I would think. All right. So this guy, Dr. Raymond Vondenleer, was appointed the on-site director of this research program. Okay, and he used a method of gaining consent that they did the spinal taps and all of the free treatment. It was a series of just like fooling and tricking these people again getting the local Black doctors and nurses to help get the people. It's just horrible. Okay, so these are the other. See, this is one. Can you see it when I hyperlink it? Okay, so let's see. This man right here, Robert Rusa Moton, was one of the people they said that worked to help get the Negro patients. And then this person, Eugene Dibble, was also one that they list. And they also list this nurse named Eunice Rivers Laurie. She is in a lot of pictures, and she was a Negro nurse who worked in the state of Alabama. She's known for her work as the coordinator of the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. So I can't imagine this woman, I don't know how she would have gotten involved to be like the chief nurse that worked to lure the patients, because she was able to get the trust of the people. So let me read about her, Miss Eunice Rivers, because this is the thing that, needs to be really stressed, is that these people would not get access to the people if it weren't for the Judases among us that will sell us out for 30 pieces of silver, right? So it's always a Judas, and that is how the fall happens. Okay, so Miss Nurse Eunice Rivers had trained at Tuskegee Institute and worked at the hospital. So they had a hospital in the premises, and she was recruited to start the study and to be the main point of contact with the participants. Rivers played a crucial role in the study because she served as the direct link to they say, African American community. So Dr. Vonderlohr considered her participation to be the key to gaining the trust of the subjects and promoting their participation. As a part of Miss Rivers' lodge, so Miss Rivers had a lodge. Could this be lodge business, as my brother Super Sly says all the time? Lodge business. Okay, so Miss Rivers' lodge participants would receive free physical examinations at Tuskegee University, free rides to and from the clinic. Does this sound very contemporary? They get free rides to go back and forth to their medical appointments. It's a lot of money in that. Don't you all know? Lots of money. People make lots of money doing things like that. So it's always a market for people to, take advantage of this and make lots of money off of illness and people being sick. Okay, so she was able to get the trust of the people. As a part of Miss Rivers' lodge, again, they would receive the free physical rides, hot meals. Doesn't that sound very similar? You could get the hamburger and and fries, or they were giving out Krispy Kreme donuts, remember? So hot meals they got on exam days. And free treatment. How nice is that? They get free treatment for all the ailments that they were experiencing. So Rivers was also key in convincing. Now, wait a minute. Listen, I got to take a little sip of water. This one here is a doozy. This is a doozy right here. This Miss Rivers, whoa. What a legacy she is. I can't imagine being related to this woman. Okay, so again, Miss Rivers, Eunice Rivers, the nurse, she was key in convincing the families to sign autopsy agreements in return for funeral benefits. All right, let me read that again. The nurse, Eunice Rivers, was key in convincing the families of these victims to sign autopsy agreements, and in return would get funeral benefits. It says that she became a long-term worker. She was the chief person who provided continuity to this whole experiment. So she stayed, it looks like, the full 40 years. So the termination happened when they were getting criticism for the immorality of this and poor scientific practice. They had dissenters that started to speak up because, like I said, this was not a secret. They were doing these experiments and publishing the results in medical journals. Okay, so they had some doctors that were dissenters. Sounds familiar? And the one whistleblower that came forward. So they broke a story in the Washington Star, July 25th, 1972, and of the Associated Press. Also, it was released in the New York Times. It was a front page. Senator Edward Kennedy called for congressional hearings. And as a result of public outcry, the CDC and the Public Health Department appointed an ad hoc advisory panel to review the study. That's like sending the wolves to protect the chickens in the coop, right? I'm just saying, like, I don't think anything happens when you get the government involved with investigating themselves. Okay, so they did have class action lawsuits that happened in 1974. There was a settlement filed by the NAACP. Now, I don't want to get into the NAACP, but if you look at who started the NAACP, who funded the beginning of this organization, then you will know that there's something odd going on. Okay, so on behalf of the study participants, the NAACP filed a class action lawsuit. It's weird that they're called the Negro, right? Let's see. NAACP stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So it doesn't even say Negro in the name. This is colored people. Did you all know that? Is a civil rights organization, and it was formed in 1909. It's very suspicious right here. Okay, so W.E.B. Du Bois was involved in this, it looks like. It was an interracial endeavor. All right, so again, it's the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. There you are. Okay, so they won. For the descendants of the Tuskegee experiment, the descendants were granted, I guess, a settlement of $10 million and agreed to, the government had to pay the $10 million, and the U.S. government had agreed to provide free medical treatment for the surviving participants and the surviving family members. Okay. Congress created a commission empowered to write regulations to deter such abuses from occurring in the future. Did they really learn from this is what I want to ask you. Okay, so there's a collection of material, it says, compiled to investigate the study, and this is held at the National Library of Medicine in Bethesda, Maryland. So anybody who's interested in studying this, they say there's a collection of material there that could be, I guess, the foundation for an investigation. I think this does need to be opened up as a cold case. The apology by President Clinton, that is nothing compared to what is due. And this awarding a settlement, this to me is not redress for what happened. This is not redress. That is like just a little band-aid on something, because there has to be something that connects this. I believe that the Tuskegee experiments connects to the AIDS epidemic and crisis, as well as what happened with this Plandemic from 2020. It all connects. And we, the people, should have enough concern for those that want to continue to fight and to fight for truth. Just know that this is a case that happened not that long ago again. And this really should be something that everybody is concerned about. It shouldn't matter that this happened to Negro, colored, Black, African American. This is an American tragedy. And if we are not concerned about what happened to these sharecroppers, then we can't expect anything to change, right? Right now, look at how the tides have changed. You have fentanyl coming across the border that is wiping out so many people in the rural and middle states, right? So this is the thing about, we are going to have to be our brother's keeper. We're going to have to be concerned with what has happened. Okay? This has been a racial gaslighting done on you all too, white people, because again, just to be called white, that's not your real label, your real identity. This whole white and Black thing, we all got duped. Okay, and they used to turn, and they still do it, they're turning up the racial heat so that, you know, there's a race thing always, but it's backfiring, right? The more that they push against Kyrie Irving and Kanye, formerly Kanye, or Ye, the more they push against these Negro men, these, what do you want, brunette men, these American men, the more they push and persecute and destroy the livelihood, the money, all the canceling. They just had Morehouse College cancel. Kanye was going to do something there. They've canceled it. Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, an HBCU. So we are watching a lynching. This is a lynching of character. This is a financial lynching. And it's causing people to become like Kanye fans. People that had no interest in him. It's making him turn into a figure, like a martyr of some sort. God forbid I don't believe they can touch him. I have my theories. I told you I'm kind of like, I don't know what to think sometimes. But in my heart of heart, I believe that this is what's needed to wake people up and to have conversations and to see in real time how a person is being treated just for expressing free speech in a nation that is supposed to be a right of the people. but he's being demonetized. He's being harassed. Some woman approach. I don't know how much of this is theater, but all I know is the more that this optic is that they are attacking these so-called black men. And these are the same people that were putting signs on their lawn, okay? Black Lives Matter, right? When I was in Philadelphia, I was driving through the most liberal part, right? Where I used to live out there, like in Elkins Park. And you know, you have all these big mansions and everything, and they had Black Lives Matter signs on their lawn. These are the very people who would not even have a black person for dinner, but they'll have a Black Lives Matter sign out so they can virtue signal. But we're not fooled by this. It's all falling apart. And one thing I realized about this Tuskegee experiment is that when you look at these wars and the theater of war, I now believe that the so-called slaves, these were basically prisoners of war, devastated by this war that came on our nation. It wasn't a traditional war. It was a mixture of violence and massacres, like mobs of Democrats, okay? So when we look at the Civil War and how, like in many states, okay, the so-called Negro was in seats of government, and we were Republican. We had a republic. So we had heads of state that you can look into this all through the government. So what happened? You had mobs of people who would come and they would siege cities. You can look up the records of the floods that the Army Corps of Engineers, okay, for that, when they were doing these things with these wars, they were unleashing flood waters onto Negro communities, okay, that are underneath lakes. I told you all this, right? Okay. There is something that is going to be revealed that a lot of people are not ready for, but it's time. We can't stop it. The truth is going to continue marching forward. And if people can't handle it, we need to build mental toughness, is all I know. Because even this is very hard for me, because I didn't know a lot about this stuff. I didn't know. I didn't know about, even back to Scott Joplin. I didn't know about Scott Joplin. Now, the similar narrative is that Scott Joplin also contracted syphilis, remember? And he had a neurological type of syphilis that it developed into dementia. He was put away in an asylum. And then they claim he died and he was buried in a potter's field in New York. Okay, that island off of Manhattan that has a potter's field. They buried this man, they say, in Potter's Field. But then you look at a narrative that he was buried in one of these prestigious cemeteries. So it's a lot going on that's very weird about this narrative. So let me make sure I don't want to forget the rest of this. Okay, so they wanted to continue this study because they felt that this was a great benefit to humanity and mankind. So something about this Tuskegee experiment on the surface, it's a lot more to it. When we think about the Nazis and all of the experiments that they were doing, you need not look any further than this right here, okay? This right here is documented. This is documentation. And let's see. They call it scientific failings. And racism involved. Of course, right? So racial attitudes that see, they continue to do things to attack the character of the Negroes so that the people, they caused the divide. You see what I'm saying? And they had things like blackface and all that stuff where they were destroying the image. So once you destroy the image, then it's okay to harm that person. So they made the people very vulnerable, and cities were burned down. It would be these, all you had to do, okay, all they had to do in the narrative is say that a black man looked at a white woman in a provocative way. You know I'm telling the truth. That's all that had to be said for the whole city to go up in flames. That's all they had to do with the narrative. Oh my God, he whistled at a white woman. He looked at her. He whatever. And that would, it would start, the clans would start to, whatever, the Ku Klux Klan, they're out riding at night, they're burning down. This was all the government, okay? These were the Democrats. This is how they sieged power. This is how they overtook, and this was a coup against our republic. And this is just all here. This is, it can't be denied. It's look, it's here. So not only were they doing these kind of experiments on these men, but they were doing experiments on the Negro women when it came to gynecology. So gynecological surgeries were performed. I can't even give you the details. It is so harrowing to listen to the details of this kind of surgery that they did on the Negro woman. Okay. They were also robbing the graves so they could do experiments. Okay. They often had to guard the graves. So the abuses are beyond. They're beyond. So the names that come up that funded these things, it's right here, everyone. And, they're saying that there's a distrust of the government on the part of the black people, and that we listen to, the black people, I need to be reclassified. I slip into it. So contributing to persistent rumors. So I guess this is like conspiracy theories, right? That in the black community, that the government was responsible for the HIV AIDS. Oh, how ridiculous, right? That we would, think that, right? And that it was some type of deliberate thing to experiment on the black community. So that was very, prevalent. Is the HIV AIDS crisis was believed and is still believed by many, many Negro, whatever you want to call people, melanated people, brunettes, that AIDS, HIV was created. Yes, I don't care what you call me. I've been called whatever. I believe it. It was created. Okay, it's a bioweapon. All right, so we see the names, okay? The lawsuits, they had $1 billion lawsuit, Rockefeller Foundation. We got Bristol Myers Squibb, John Hopkins, all these names right here. So some African Americans have been hesitant to get jabbed with the Jungle Juice 19 due to the Tuskegee experiment. See, if you brought up Tuskegee back in 2020, oh, they attacked you. You're not supposed to bring it up, I guess, right? And especially to see the connections. So they said in September 2021, a right-wing group of American frontline doctors were promoting conspiracy theories and misinformation. A lot of people were they were deplatformed for just trying to give people a wide range of options. They were demonized, villainized, deplatformed, harmed in many ways, lots of loss financially. Only to have these people yesterday claim that they want Amnesty. We need to forgive each other for what we did and said in 2020. Okay. So we went through some of these pictures, right? I just want to go through and show you just some of the optics. Let's see. So there they are taking the blood, you know, the doctor drawing blood. More blood draws. And there's Nurse Eunice Rivers gaining the trust of the people. More blood draws. And this is Oliver Wenger. So these are some of the names, some of the people involved in the Tuskegee experiments. This one is Dr. Raymond Voldenler. That's Eugene Dibble. He was a doctor. And there's Eunice. And here is the whistleblower Peter Buxton. And here's some of the test subjects. And Charlie Pollard, he was a survivor. Another one, Herman Shaw, survived this. And these were some of their propaganda pamphlets. And this is, like I said, you can see the public health records. And this is the letter that they would send the people to lure them in with a lie that they were going to be treated for their bad blood. And in what they needed was more blood. They were taking, doing the lumbar punctures, the spinal taps. So this is more. This would be an autopsy document. So the nurse, again, she would get the families to sign autopsies, okay? So they'd have their ready-made reasons for death. Have the family sign this with the promise that they would provide for the funeral. Okay, so this is more of the documents so you all can see. This stuff has been, you know, it was not that long ago. Oh my gosh, Jamel, I haven't seen you in a while. Hey, it's been a long time. How have you been? Welcome, welcome. So this right here is turning into a medical crime. A crime that involves, I believe, the same people that we're looking at for the current thing that we have, right? And for people that feel a sense of duty to study, I would encourage you to look at the connections here. And the people, I believe, would be able to get together, because we need more groups of people looking into this and doing these things as a group. You know, when you want to get redress, I believe we the people should consider doing things where we take things to the Supreme Court and we get redress for a lot of the things that have happened. Okay, I believe a lot will open up for people to look into things. If you've had yourself things that have happened in your family. Again, I shared with you that my grandmother was injured by a jab. She developed polio, and her life was drastically different. Okay, so there's another fund. It's called the Millbank Memorial Fund. They also issued an apology for damaging the public trust with this whole Tuskegee experiment. And they say that because of this experiment, the life expectancy of the Negroes in that area actually went down because there was such a mistrust in the community that they would suffer with things that they could have had treated. But, people got really dependent on doctors and hospitals. And a lot of these people used to be more, I guess, self-sufficient. But with the war and the coup that happened, it devastated the colonial Americans, and their form of government, our form of government, was usurped and continues to be that way to this day. So let's see, what else? I will be looking into Tuskegee Institute more than today. I just wanted to read the narrative of the Tuskegee experiment for you all. And that's pretty much the narrative so far. To sum up, what they did was, let me present my little slide again. 1 minute. Okay. So the Tuskegee experiment was intentional. They did harm. They stated that the knowledge gained would benefit mankind. The doctors mailed deceptive letters with sentences like last chance for special free treatment. And they withheld the cure that they had all along, which was penicillin. Something as simple as penicillin. So the published report in 1934 of the clinical data, penicillin was when they found it to be a safe treatment for syphilis, a cure, in fact. One of the things about Big Pharma, they have been given immunity and protection from lawsuits. Now, that is something that I think should be taken to the Supreme Court, and all of that needs to be looked into. Why can't big pharmaceutical companies be liable for harm and injury? We need to reconsider that. And that's the kind of stuff we should come together and work on. We should have teams of researchers working on these things. We can look, it doesn't matter what you vote for. This affected everybody. So people that are coming away from the Democrats, you can see the history of this party. They have been wicked from the beginning, okay? Everything they do is a projection. They treat the black people as if they own them and they're on a plantation and you cannot do anything or say anything unless you get approval. They like their black people to be very docile, okay? And don't question anything. Go along with whatever candidate we throw at you. You go ahead and you cape for them. You get out there and vote, and you vote all straight blue. We have people today that is still say they just do a straight blue ticket. So they've done a real number on the people, but fortunately, there are a lot of people that are waking up from the spell. They are waking up and they're saying, no more, I'm off of the plantation. And they're getting attacked. Like if Killer Mike just happened to say something, I don't know, kind of nice about maybe a Republican or something, I don't know. Well, they're writing things up in Huffington Post saying he's as dangerous as Kanye. So they're going on an attack of black men right now. They are really attacking black men. And I know that there has been a lot of, whatever. It's a war between the black man and the black woman. This is all created by the same people. So when you want to look at this manosphere stuff that started, and then you have this just big divide between the black man and the black woman, this is unprecedented stuff. This is all created by the same people, okay? Same ones. And looking at how they're doing these black men right now, you got Kyrie and you got Kanye, okay? And Killer Mike. What's going on with the 3Ks? Killer Mike, Kanye, and Kyrie, okay? We need an underground railroad to get them to freedom, okay? So we need abolitionists. We need prayer for these men because, look, I know all men, Sean, but right now, when you look at what is being done in the optics, you look at what's happening to Kanye. When has a person ever been attacked this way, where they're a billionaire one day and tomorrow they're not, and they're just splashing it all over? I mean, this is like a lynching. This is a financial lynching. This is they're lynching his character. They're doing so many things. They're trying to just destroy this man, okay? And then Kyrie, he can't even, he can't have an opinion. This is a well-spoken man. They're like, oh, he's a flat earther. Oh, no wonder he's a vax denier. They treated Kyrie Irving like trash, okay? They wouldn't let him travel to play games. They had press conferences. They keep pressing him on just something that, he believes. He's not supposed to have any critical thinking. And they try to turn the other players against him. And the fans don't respect him. If you notice recently, there was a group of people that came to sit at the basketball game so they could harass Kyrie, right? And they have t-shirts that say Jewish Lives Matter or something. And so now this is like these men are being attacked. And listen, it's going to backfire. It's going to backfire big time. Even people that don't like these men, maybe they don't like maybe the things that Kanye says, they're turning people into big Kanye fans. Chris says he loves the guy now, right? So it's like, it's doing the opposite. It's so ridiculous. And the desperation right now with this Democratic Party, they're not going to just go away kindly and into the day. They know that they have lost the people. They are hemorrhaging voters, especially the black voters. For them to claim that we're not such a big deal, we're such a little 14%, they obsess over black people. The Democrat Party. They are obsessed with black people. Am I wrong? Have I told a lie anywhere? They are obsessed with black people. And why is that? That's the question on the table. Why is the Democratic Party so obsessed with black people and what black people are thinking, how they're voting, this, that? It's very interesting. Very interesting. So it was one other thing I wanted to share about this narrative. Again, the man that funded the Tuskegee experiment, his name again, Julius Rosenwald. This was interesting to me. He was the founder, owner of Sears, Roebuck Company. I know it's something else I want to say that I probably forgot. But this right here is a cold case. I believe it's a lot worse. This, you could go ahead and put it in the bucket of what I am now going to boldly proclaim that happened is the Black Holocaust or the Negro Holocaust. All right? Now, when you think about the name Tuskegee, Alabama. They try to tell us that this is about Indians named Tuskegee or some kind of Indian tribe. They claim in the narrative that these Tuskegee Indians were driven out of Alabama. So how is it that then you have black people, Negroes, that just appear? They're supposed to have been slaves, but yet these are people that are doing things like they're doctors, they're playing violins. They are very, very highly advanced slaves. They're more like prisoners of war that were impoverished because their stuff was taken from them. So this narrative of Indians, it keeps us looking and chasing shadows. Then why is it that all these Negroes are in Alabama, in Tuskegee? If it's all about Indians, what about these Negroes? You got a whole college there. Where's the Indian institution? Where's the Indian university? You know, everybody, we got to reconsider these stories of these native people that they claim were here. We should see evidence more so than these drawings that they give us and all this other stuff. Because we have Negroes that are here, and the whole slave narrative makes no sense anymore. I feel that I've debunked it for myself. I don't know how you all feel, if you're convinced, but I don't believe one bit of a slave narrative. It makes no sense to a thinking person. So we got a problem, America, and we're going to have to get it fixed. And we're going to have to get on the same page. This is a call to action. We're going to have to care about what happened. Maybe it didn't happen to me. It didn't happen to my, but you know what? Like I said, if it's not going to be any care and concern about this situation, then expect more things to happen like 2020. Because if it happens to Negroes and nobody cares, then it's going to happen to everybody. Because again, I'm going to say this. The destiny, and I think Prime used to, I'll give Prime the credit because he always said this. The destiny of America's Negro is the destiny of all of America. I said it and I will double down on this. Until we are concerned about this, nothing will go right for anybody. And I mean that. We won't have nice things. Because we need to know the identity of this American Negro. Who are they? And why has their identity always been like a 3-card Monty? Oh, they're African American, they're Negro, they're colored, they're this, they're black, they're this. Why is the identity being hidden? That is to be determined. Because that is going to be the shocker, the absolute shocker. So, again, this is a call to action to look into the Tuskegee experiments and to be concerned about the details of it, to connect it to what happened in 2020 and the AIDS epidemic. Hey, everything else in between. But this democratic system, that they want a democracy, this is a mob rule. They were the ones that did the coup. That's why they are obsessed about January 6th, insurrection, because they are projecting what they did. They are the insurrectionists. Yeah, all lives matter. Crazy kind of love. All lives matter. That's right. And you know the thing about all lives mattering? They have to all matter. Okay? It just has to be that. They have to all matter. It can't be a platitude. It has to really be something in our hearts. that we really, really believe all lives matter, and that we do not have a benign sort of neck, like we just don't care. We can watch the suffering and know about the suffering of people like this. I haven't even shown the pictures of what these men went through with these horrible experiments. There have been many experiments. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But I believe the Tuskegee experiments is the unlocking of justice when it comes to, I know you all want to see some Nuremberg style trials. You don't want to hear about it happening secretly. We need to know that this stuff is happening. So as people are leaving the Democratic Party, let us embrace those people. If you're new to this chat, you want to jump into the chatmosphere, tell us your testimony. You walked away from the Democrats. You realized who they were. You're tired of it. Let us know. Give us a testimony. Drop in. We love you. We want to have that, breaking of the bread, kumbaya. But we're also not going to be gaslit by people who have the attitude of the Atlantic. Though we just need amnesty. No, we need redress. Okay, there are going to be a lot of people suing right now. The lawsuits are going to be flooding. Okay, a flood of lawsuits. So people are going to get angry when they wake up to what has happened. And there's a lot of desperation on the part of these Democrats to hold on to their power. So desperate people do desperate things. So we need to pray that God will put a lid on anything that they're planning as they are losing the reins of control. They're already losing the control over the minds of the people and the hearts and the soul. God will not be mocked. And so this is a real warning to people that if they do not change and repent how they feel about life in the womb, and they're so cavalier about that issue right there is enough to bring down, like when I talk about these people think that things are just the same, business as usual. Those that know, we know. These are the days of Noah. And it will be sudden when it comes upon them. The woes, woe to them who mock the living God. Woe to all of them who don't want to humble themselves. If they do not humble themselves, they will be humbled. And the humbling is happening as we speak right now. So just stay in an encouraged place. Know that it is going to be difficult. I've been losing some sleep over some things that I haven't even shared, all the stuff that I'm starting to put together. It has really shaken me to my core. And I thought I had been shaken already. But I have been outside weeping, okay? And I don't even cry, that much. You've seen me cry. I'm kind of a crybaby. I could cry a little bit, but it was a long time where I couldn't even cry. I would be wanting to cry, why can't I cry? But I've been weeping. When I really got a full download of what happened to Scott Joplin, I wept. It was something about it. It hit me very hard. So we are going to be challenged with some things. That's right, Donna Lee. The veil is lifted. And, once it's lifted, the veil's not coming back down. And God is doing an amazing work. Yes, thank you, One Take Son. I will be encouraged. Even though I was weeping, it wasn't like I'm depressed, but it was like a cathartic weeping, a cleansing that I haven't had in a long time, right? But it was something about Scott Joplin. Oh boy, it got me. I didn't know anything about this man. So this fits right back in where, this syphilis, which is a form of smallpox, and when you realize that these men were put into internment camps, okay? These asylums were basically internment camps. The Red Cross, okay? Being dispatched into a war theater. And they were processing the Negroes, okay? Putting them in asylums. Remember, the World's Fairs were the processing center for the war. And they were just doing horrendous things to our heads of states, our Republican Negro heads of states. Okay? This truth is going to march on. And do not be swayed by all the fear mongering and, they're, planning this or they're planning. No, you know what? God is in control. These people have lost control, their perception of control. They cannot do anything without the allowance, okay? And God uses all, noble and not noble. So we will continue to be encouraged and let us be of a strong mental fortitude that we can look at truth. It might be hard. It might have you weeping outside too. Maybe I needed to weep. Like I said, I needed to cleanse. So I love you all. I thank you for joining for this tough kind of conversation. It will continue in terms of me putting together more content. I want to focus on some more things, get into some, like I like to do the edited videos, and I'll keep you posted on that. And if you have any questions, like I've told you before, if you have any kind of questions, okay, I've been able to set up some complimentary times to talk to you all. And no question is too hard, okay? So if you have things going on and you just want to get a checkup, okay? Like I said, we get checkups of our body. This is a financial checkup. If you want to see how you're doing, are you protected? Do you want to run some ideas by somebody that could give you like confidence, okay? Because money is one of those topics that gets us in our feelings, okay? But you don't have to feel ashamed or anything. Just know that we want everybody to be protected, to be able to not fall prey to what they did the last time when they crashed the markets and things, and people's pensions and retirements are just stolen. You can protect yourself, okay, from what these bankers are doing. You do not have to be a victim of how they play with these markets, okay? So you can get the proper information, education, and you can get with me. Like I said, hit me up on Instagram. I'm Jenny the John. I'm the same person across like Facebook. You can send me a message and let's set up some time. It's been just that easy with people. We've been setting up times with people. So I love you all. And that's why I want to do, this is the mission, to help people that we've been on the outside, right? And I don't want to see people get robbed of their legacies where they are paying taxes and their trust and estates are going right back to going to the government. So just get with me and let's talk. Okay. So I love you all. Take good care. And I'll see you very soon. Maybe, I don't know when. I have to play it by ear because my new schedule has been picking up, okay? So I will pop up on you if that's okay. All right? So until next time, love you all and stay encouraged.